just think it'd be good. We need to practice the content, but if we just run a few times just so that the actual oh, sorry. Okay. Then good evening and welcome, everybody. It's now 2 minutes past 6, so I think it's about time for us to kick off. Thank you so very much for joining us here on the eve of World Rhino Day 2023. To our VIPs who are here with us in person at Rhino HQ near London Bridge, to our speakers joining us from around the world, and of course to all of the online community who are with us this evening. Of course, we know that solving complex problems like rhino conservation requires collaboration from partnerships. So we're particularly delighted to be able to join you this evening with our close colleagues and friends and partner organisations around the world. You can see the logos of the partners, the logos of the different organisations on the bottom of this slide. Bottom of this slide. So I should have used that. Yeah. So we should leave, even if we move the speaker when people come in, we should leave the stool there. Because so we remember where it needs to go back. Okay. Yes, so solving complex problems like rhino conservation requires a collaborative response. And so we're particularly delighted to be joined this evening by our close colleagues and friends from partner organisations all around the world. And you can see from the logos, this is a collaboration between IUCN, so the Rhino, IRF. Do that complicated. No.
So it's just we would rather have it
yeah. No. Yeah. Fantastic. Good 2 minutes past 6. Good evening and welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here at the Rhino HQ in London Bridge on the eve of World Rhino Day 2022. Of course, solving complex problems like rhino conservation needs lots of partnerships. It's great to have all these people with us here this evening. And we're delighted to exemplify this partnership in our joint collaboration. My name's Dr. Jo Shaw. I've been working in rhino conservation for about the last 25 years, primarily in Africa. I actually began my career here at Save the Rhino in the late 1990s before moving to South Africa, where I worked on a number of biological research and wildlife conservation projects. Just 2 months ago, in July of this year, I moved back to the UK from South Africa. I was very honoured to be selected as the next CEO of Save the Rhino International. So I'll be setting the scene this evening, sharing a little bit of history about rhino conservation. So if we look, tonight we're covering all the 5 species of rhinos around the world. And if we look back over their population trends to kind of around the turn of the 20th century, we see a lot of parallels. The primary threats, of course, are loss of habitat destruction and land use change, historically through clearing for agriculture and forestry, and in some places in both Africa and Asia, active extirpation and removal of rhinos from private land. Secondly, of course, as we all know, the persecution, the poaching of rhinos for their horn for illegal trade. historically demand into Yemen for use as Jambia handles in the 90s. No, I need to do that. So traditional Chinese medicine, Jambias, Vietnam, ornamental use. So these two primary threats are kind of underpinned by secondary influences. There's definitely a pattern that in areas of instability, where we see war or civil unrest, easier access to weapons, a general breakdown of the rule of law can exacerbate the problems for rhinos. And ditto, because rhino conservation requires such commitment and investment in areas where there isn't support kind of from local people on the ground all the way up to political will from the highest levels, again, the loss of populations becomes more likely if these elements are lacking for various reasons. So across the 5 species of rhinos, there are more than one. There's often more than one subspecies or ecotype that's adapted to certain areas or geographies. And sadly, within relatively recent history, a number of these subspecies have become extinct, or functionally extinct. For example, the western black rhino the 4 previously recognized black rhino subspecies, the western subspecies from Cameroon dwindled down to very low numbers and was officially declared extinct by the IUCN in 2011. Similarly, there was a subspecies of Javan rhino, which was found in Vietnam. Again, sadly, the last individual, the species was declared extinct in 2011. Remaining in Asia, the last remaining Sumatran rhino in the Sabah in Malaysia was reported in no, I need to not talk about the last individuals and just say when they were reported officially extinct. And finally, the northern subspecies of white rhino, as we see here, sadly can be considered functionally extinct. There are 2 remaining individuals. They're both female from the zoo living in a reserve in Kenya. The last wild population was lost from Garamba National Park in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And excitingly, a new population of southern white rhino was introduced there in June this year. So what's striking to me telling these histories is that one tends to think of extinction as being a big deal, that extinction goes with a bang, not a whimper. But when we think about these stories, in fact, the rhino species are getting down to very low numbers, fewer and fewer individuals seen. Eventually the sightings stop and that subspecies is gone, unless there is significant investment in interventions to change their trajectories as well.
It's still as good as possible, but if you could ensure that you're not overstepping the line.
Okay.
Even if you're stepping on it, you're already.
Oh, okay. Okay. Put heels on.
You can heels on. So come forward. No. Back. Yeah. Yeah, so this is fine.
So I'm going to keep talking. So at the same time, we also know that rhino populations can recover. In fact, we've seen remarkable stories of recoveries coming back from the brink over time. So for example, perhaps the best known is the southern white rhino, which is now the most numerous of all 5 rhino species, recovered from perhaps 20 to 50 individuals in Kafue and Pelosi in South Africa. Operation Rhino actively introducing across South Africa, across zoos around the world. Black rhino numbers, again, more than doubled from their low point in the mid-90s. Now healthy populations, particularly in South Africa, Kenya, Namibia, Zimbabwe. Greater one-horned rhinos dropped to only perhaps 200 individuals in India and Nepal. And shortly I'll be handing over to our experts who specialist groups will be telling us about the recent state of these animals in more detail. So with World Rhino Day coming up tomorrow, it's a seems a good time for a deeper reflection on exactly where we're at. And although we focus on rhinos, on these 5 species, they actually act as very good umbrella species because of the size of the area that they cover. They represent a range of different animal and plant species. But because they're also at the forefront of so much illegal wildlife trade and poaching threat, they're a really strong indicator of the impacts of these 2 critical threats against biodiversity. The poaching threat to meet demand for horn remains a serious concern. We're facing real challenges in terms of having safe habitat available for rhinos, and sadly, that is only likely to become more challenging if we look at the projected human population trajectories, particularly in Africa over coming years. For this reason, sustainable finance for conservation is always challenging, but for this reason, it's particularly tough for rhino conservation because the costs of securing rhinos are so high. I think we're all increasingly more cognizant of the dual threats of the climate and biodiversity crisis facing humanity. We really don't know how the predicted extremes and unpredictability of weather patterns will impact water and food availability for rhinos, and their competition for resources with other species, including ourselves, and indeed whether rhino species extinction will be directly adding to a biodiversity crisis, or some unraveling of ecosystem services due to other extinctions could compound the threats facing the rhinos themselves. So with these lessons from history and the challenging context we find ourselves in today, I will hand over to our speakers to give us an update on where we are with rhinos around the world. First up is Dr. Sam Pereira. Sam is a large mammal ecologist whose background has spread from working with killer whales on sub-Antarctic islands to seabirds in New Zealand. And he's probably best known for his extensive work with large mammals across southern Africa and their linkages with humans. And for the last 2 years, Sam has been the scientific officer of the African Rhino Group. Sam's joining us live tonight from Pretoria.
Testing. I'm not Sam, unfortunately.
How's it, Sam?
Hi.
No sound. Should there be
Turn my
sound?
volume up on my computer. Okay.
So when it's Sam, I will move over here. Next slide, please. 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 Fantastic. Thank you very much, Sam. Some positive news there, lots to look forward to and lots to reflect on. Let's move now to Dr. Bibha Palladar, who's joining us for Guwahati in India. Bibha wears many hats. He's chair of the Asian Rhino Specialist Group. He's a senior advisor for Asian Rhinos at the International Rhino Foundation and the founder of Parent. So Bibha. Okay. Bibha. Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks, Bibha. Actually, I don't need to come back up yet. You can just come over. Next, we're moving to Indonesia. Talk about Java and marching rhinos. Jimmy was introduced by Jimmy Rutherford. He's the program of Rhino International, Jimmy's colleague. Ecology, where childhood fascination with just around further developed. He joined Rhino Michael incident in 2021 before Jimmy.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to be going through the final two species of rhino, the Javan and the Martin rhino. Unfortunately, while the other three species now number in the thousands, these two species both number in the dozens. So I will start off with the Javan rhino. Today, these guys are only found in Ujung Kulon National Park in Western Java. In the 1960s, their numbers were around 25 individuals. Today, we're looking at roughly 76. Actually, we are looking at the official estimate.
Yeah.
But it wasn't always this way. So they were once found across much of South and Southeast Asia. However, by 2010, the last individual was found dead in Vietnam, which left the remaining animals in Ujung Kulon National Park as the sole survivors of the species. But when it comes to...
So just don't forget to talk about your red dot. Just describe exactly where.
As you can see,
tiny little
in Ujung Kulon National Park, which you can see in the red dot on the map on the left, and then zoomed in on the right is a close-up image of that peninsula, which is only around 300 square kilometers. So it's a very, very small, very restricted area of the species. That's very helpful. I can see the reflection on the cupboard.
Good point.
I'm very humble.
Yeah, but if you're looking at visual physics clip,
yeah. Next, we have the Martin rhino. Now, whilst the Javan rhino is concentrated all in one area, this species numbers far fewer individuals and is dispersed over a much wider area. Today, we're looking at between 34 and 47 individuals in up to 4 populations. But again, it wasn't always this way. This species had a similar range to that of the Javan rhino, but it was found in areas of much higher elevation, which means that as and when human encroachment took place in these areas, they were much less likely to be feared for agriculture. And the last individuals, and I had it in there.
keep talking with so many times on that.
Yeah. In mainland Southeast Asia, but this was not the last because the last individuals were recorded in the main peninsula in the early 2000s, and then the last individuals were lost in 2019, as Joe said earlier. So that leaves populations in Sumatra and a single very small population, perhaps as though as one single individual in the wild, Kalimantan and Borneo. In Sumatra, the main focus now is the population in the north, the Lusa ecosystem, and then the population in the Campus National Park and the Sumatran rhino sanctuary there. So in terms of threat, most of them are very familiar to us when it comes to rhino conservation, but it's important to emphasize with these two species that because their numbers are so low and their range is so restricted, any chance event, any stochastic event that can occur is much more likely to have a greater impact on the survival of the species. For example, if a tsunami happens in the Ujung Kulon Peninsula, it sounds very dramatic, but it's also a very likely possibility, and it has happened in the past. That peninsula would be inundated and those rhinos would in all likelihood be lost as well. I will draw your attention as well to the highly fragmented population. This is a particular problem for the Sumatran rhinos. At the moment, whilst there are still vast areas of contiguous habitat in the Losa ecosystem, those animals are just vast areas where they are unable to find one another to breed. And when that happens over an extended period of time with Sumatran rhinos, if females do not breed repeatedly at regular intervals, I can't go into it
Not if we've got an hour for the whole thing.
Okay. And then, of course, poaching and human encroachment are always a concern when it comes to rhinos. Unfortunately, in Ujung Kulon, there are recent reports of a rise in illegal incursions, and the government of Indonesia has reported that there has been an unnatural death of a rhino in the park, and investigations are ongoing at this time.
Good.
But despite this, births still occurred. This is a young male that was born last year, and also births are still occurring with Sumatran rhinos. These are 3 calves that were born at the Sumatran Rhino Sanctuary in Sumatra. The last calf that was born on your right was born last March. It does seem dire. Oh no, it is dire. The situation is dire at the moment. But efforts by the government of Indonesia, by NGOs, are working to turn the situation around. And the current update at the moment is that the sanctuary in the north of the island is...
No, not enough.
Can't go on about that? No?
Don't commit, we can't control it. Well,
I can control it.
I think it's enough to do the things that I, but we're all working on. Unless you really want to say the really want. Okay, then just take the
I was. That's right.
last year.
Last year. I know the situation is dire, but the government of Indonesia and NGOs are working around. Yeah. At the end of the day, the other rhino have covered in the past. Theoretically, there's no reason well, change slide. Have we done it? Thank you very much. Yes.
Hold on. Sorry.
No.
I'm not meaning to ruffle you.
How long did that take?
I don't think anyone recorded. Wasn't bad. I don't need to come back over here. Super, thanks, Jimmy. So now we're going to be joined by Dr. Marcus Hoffmeyer, a wildlife veterinarian with decades of experience, who's now director of the Rhino Recovery Fund at the Wildlife Conservation Network. Marcus worked for South African National Parks for 18 years, living based in Botswana and the UK, and is now leading rhino conservation efforts around the world with the hope of broader benefits. Oh, but you'll be ready to.
Yeah, we've done exactly what we.
Okay. Okay. Markers. Anything for Asia markers. Okay, cool. Great. What do you think overall? And what do you think? Excellent. So now we need to bring. Now do we need to?
So what is it now?
Question.
Is it now?
Okay, so okay, so wrap up at the end of our side of the evening. Now we're gonna go to the floor.
Yeah, do you want to take your? Yeah,
Take the stool, you know, to stay behind us. Like dragging up these big heavy things.
Otherwise you're surrounded by school from the beginning.
Yeah, I guess. I just think it's very awkward to.
Oh, it's change of scene.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you take your stool and you take your stool.
Okay.
You remember where they were? Where are you sitting down? You take it.
Well, no, we're bringing them in here now. Great. So that's all we have. That's all from us so far this evening. Now we're going to open the floor up to questions from our friends in the room, our friends online. Does anyone have any questions arising from the presentation this evening or any other? Oh yes, I see there's a hand there.
Oh yeah, there is an online question.
No, there's a live question.
Live
There's a live question.
Yeah, my first question.
Yes.
This.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
an excellent question.
The first question.
We should have
My question is, Rhino charging for?
our Rhino's charging forward or not. That's a good question, and it's not, as ever with Rhinos, it's not an entirely straightforward one to answer. As you can see, black Rhinos are properly charging all over the place. White Rhinos are charging a bit. Darwin and Smarties, not much.
Not so much. They're walking back.
Lightly charging backwards. We're hope them on.
And I was also interested in what Sam had said
Yes.
about this and that. So how about that?
Great. Sam, Dr. Pereira, question for you.
We're getting there.
So do we need to do I need to do a bit of filling? Is it fine if after Marcus has spoken, we just pause for a minute and
Yes. Yeah.
we don't, I think we let people get up, because if they get up and start going to the loo and chatting, we'll never get them back again. But we can just say, fantastic, thanks. There's a lot to think about there, and I don't know, should I just put in a bit of fluff for a while? I think we'll be
specific about what you've heard.
right. Okay, yeah, I can. So in summary, sounds like very exciting news from Africa. Black rhinos continuing to thrive. White rhino numbers, so exciting to see that uptick. Good work in India and Paul. I mean, Jimmy's right. Things may look, what's another word for it? Things may look concerning from the surface, but it's reassuring to know that there are efforts being put in place on the ground. And of course, at Save the Rhino, we are committed to supporting the important projects on the ground as you are here with us today. Okay. So I'll just do a bit of fluff, and maybe would you bring the stool? So I don't have to fluff, and
I can bring the stool.
Can you bring the stool?
Yep.
So I'll just do a bit of fluff and wrapping up.
We can make things look on the picture that you can see that for you guys, it will actually look like I'm going to jump this in-house. The live stream won't do this, but in-house, we're going to hold this screen.
Okay.
And then when we're ready, we're going to go screen.
Yeah.
We know it.
Yeah.
It isn't perfect, it's out, it's doing bigger.
Interesting.
Okay, so then I think, any other questions in the room? All good. What about, I think there are a lot of people online this evening. Do we have any questions online?
Yes, we have a question again. Are the rhinos charging?
Are they,
Are they still charging?
we've got load shedding in South Africa at the moment, so I think there is a charging issue. Maybe the Indians will pick up the charging element. Sam, what do you think about charging this or not?
Load shedding is very difficult, and I can't charge my phone.
You're living in the dark. You epitomise load shedding life in the dark. Thanks, Sam. Any more questions online? No. Any more questions in the room? Why do we support trophy hunting? Well, that's a really tricky one, actually. It's obviously a very complex and topic. Quite an emotive one. I think that maybe afterwards.
Asian rhinos. We say them?
No.
Okay, never mind. Forget that.
No.
Come up.
Yeah. So I suppose, yeah, what is an unnatural death?
An unnatural death. An unnatural death is, so there are reports from Indonesia at the moment of a suspected poaching case, but the government is currently, we are awaiting confirmation from the government of Indonesia as to the confirmed cause on that flights.
Yeah, we know there's been a mortality per reports. Of suspicions of poaching, government of Indonesia
is taking it very seriously and investigating. We are waiting for one more on it.
Any other questions? What did people ask you in the rhino costume? Any fun things we can? If there aren't any questions, you guys can.
Yes. More questions.
What questions would you like to be asked? You two. Obviously, we don't really ask.
That's a good point, actually.
I think you can ask how the calf doing.
Which
Yeah.
part? That female. Oh yeah, you
Yeah.
say she's the same size as the mum. Yeah.
She's doing very well. Still suckling twice a day and weighs half done.
Good growth.
Very good growth.
Individual growth.
18 months. Bad at all. Jets.
I mean, if people really want to talk about poaching in South Africa, we can do that.
So I noticed that there were 448 on the budget. You got 438. What's going on? Well.
Yeah, Sam. What happened to those?
Oh, planted good energy.
Yeah, that is a good idea. What are we most looking forward to in the next year?
2 pregnancies.
Oh yeah, we can't. Yeah. You could say more on a birth.
Yeah,
More on a
that's
birth.
nice and
You
vague.
could
Yeah.
say more on a birth. And more successful range expansion competition.
Do you want to go to that? What about
So I think someone probably will ask about African Park. I'm sure they'll ask about helium and platinum rhino, and I'm sure between Sam and Marcus and I, we can handle that. Good news as long as it's done sensibly and they've got the money.
Have they got all? No, they've just bought it. They've just got the money fine.
Well, one assumes they've budgeted what it's going to cost over time, but.
So how will you wrap up? Like, what will your final statement be?
Yeah. Thank you all very much for joining us this evening. And very exciting to hear the new positive updates from Africa, and particularly on white rhino numbers. And we're looking forward to good news from Asia soon. I don't know what I can actually say. Yeah, the situation in Asia is more concerning, but I can't. Yeah. We can't even say anything vague about good news. And thanks very much for all of yours. Yeah, thanks to everyone who's here and to everyone who supports. Yeah. Cool. Great. We need to do it one more time.